As soon as people could work on computers, they were playing on them. People took advantage of that, and entrepreneurs made companies to fill those needs. This is the history about the little guy, lacking the financial backing of a big company, but the passion to carry them through. This is a history of indie game.
Oh, nice. This is gonna be a big one. Welcome to Press Start to Join, a proud member of the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ETB. This is episode 190, and I'm Alan.
I'm Josh. Today, I found an article on redbull.com, written by Damien McFerrin. The article's called, "What was the greatest age for indie games?" And I really liked this list, so I took it and I did a deep dive into each through Wikipedia, and so I'm bringing you everything I found interesting.
Awesome.
So as a little to get started, it's based on an article, and I went to Wikipedia so that you could find all this info, but I made it easy to digest for our listeners.
I mean, that's kind of the essence of Press Start to Join, is we gather information from all over the internet and then just present it into your ear holes.
100%. His list, if you want to check out his article, I'll put a link on the page, and he has his own little blurb for each of these written, but this is more of the development of each of them.
Cool.
So, first few come from the Apple II.
Oh.
Akalabeth, World of Doom, 1979. So starting as a school project by a teenage Richard Garriott, this game was coded in AppleSoft BASIC. Richard uses school's mainframe system and an Apple II, as well as an Apple II his father bought for him. He had his D&D partners playtest the game, and they even referred to the project as D&D because he never expected to actually release it. When the game was in version 28B, the game was named Akalabeth. The name was borrowed from the Silmarillion, the fourth part of it, which is also called Akalabeth, but it's got accents all over it. Who knows how to pronounce that?
The Silmarillion?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, J.R.R. Tolkien stuff. Cool. It's probably some weird elvish word with all the accents.
Yeah, I can... who knows what all those little...
Or dwarvish.
Things. Yeah. So at this point, his first employer at a store called Computerland in Clear Lake City, Texas, suggested that why not sell the game in the store? Garriott spent $200 to package and sell the game for $20. They were inside Ziploc bags with photocopied instructions and a cover drawn by his mom.
Oh man, classic.
The instruction slip read, "Beware, foolish mortal, you trespass in Akalabeth, World of Doom," and claimed to offer 10 different high-res monsters combined with perfect perspective and infinite dungeon levels.
10 monsters?
Infinite dungeons, which is like its own genre now.
Oh yeah, procedurally generated. That's like all the roguelikes.
Yep. California Pacific Computer Company received a copy and then contacted Garriott to publish the game. Garriott flew to California with his parents and agreed to receive $5 for each copy sold. The retail price...
Not bad.
Back then, right?
Yeah.
The retail price of the California Pacific version, with the artwork done by Dennis Labat, it was $35. And Garriott claims that they sold 30,000 copies, so he made $150,000, and that would make Akalabeth the best return on investment, with all later games downhill from there.
No kidding, that's insane.
The company suggested that for marketing purposes, Lord British be credited as the author and organize a contest for soft talk readers to figure out his true identity. So this I found really neat. Akalabeth is seen as the first game in the Ultima series.
Really?
A very popular and influential series of role-playing video games. It was included as part of the 1998 Ultima collection, where it's officially picked up the name Ultima Zero.
Neat.
The version and collection added CGA colors and MIDI. It ran on DOS, making it the first official port of a game to any system other than the Apple II, though an unofficial fan-made PC version had circulated on the internet since 1995.
Wow, a lot of firsts on this one.
Oh yeah. Well, we're in the beginning of gaming, basically, in this area.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
Copies of the original Akalabeth are much more rare than those of other games that sold fewer than 30,000 copies. Historian Jimmy Mayer believes that Garriott is mistaken on the figure, and the game only appeared near the bottom of Soft Talk's monthly list of top 30 best-selling Apple II programs, twice before being discontinued in 1982. So the contrast is Sierra Online's The Wizard and Princess, which often appeared near the top of the list, sold 25,000 copies by mid-1982.
Okay, so there might be some misremembering going on there.
Yeah. Given California Pacific's high royalty rates, he suggests that 10,000 copies might have been enough to earn him the 150,000.
Not bad.
Yeah. Then the second game in the list is Mystery House 1980. Ken Williams sought to set up a company for enterprise software in the market-dominating Apple II computer. One day, he took a teletype terminal to his house to work on the development of an accounting program. Looking through the catalog, he found that there was a game called Colossal Cave Adventure, and after buying the game, he introduced it to his wife, Roberta, and they both played through it.
Cool.
Having finished Colossal Cave Adventure, they began to search for something similar, but found the market was underdeveloped, which no doubt, right?
Yeah, no kidding. It's pretty early.
Roberta decided she could come up and write her own. Taking inspiration from Agatha Christie's novel And Then There Were None, she conceived the plot for Mystery House.
Nice. I like it already.
Ken agreed to Roberta's request of the programming of the game and borrowed his brother's Apple II computer. Roberta suggested adding graphical scenes to the otherwise text-based game would make it a lot more interesting for players. And they bought a Versa Writer machine, which allowed users to trace over a line drawing and convert it to a digital drawing.
Nice.
Roberta drew 70 scenes for the game. Ken found that, however, the resulting digital drawings were too large to fit on a 5.25-inch floppy disk.
Yeah, images will do that.
He stored the images into the game's instructions for the program to redraw the lines for scenes rather than static images.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So kind of like some of the first vector work.
Yeah, actually, now that you say it like that. And he also wrote a better version of the Versa Writer scanning software. So that's pretty funny.
Yeah, no kidding. Those guys, it was like Wild West pioneer days of computers. It's so impressive what they did.
Yeah.
And women, actually.
Yeah, because Roberta wrote it and drew everything for it.
Yeah.
She just needed help with coding. The resulting game was a text-based adventure with a depiction of the character's location above the text, which is pretty standard nowadays. The game's code was completed in only a few days and was finished May 5th, 1980. The pair took out an advertisement in Micro Magazine as Online Systems and mass-produced Ziploc bags containing floppy disks and a sheet of instructions to be sold at $24.95 US.
Can you imagine walking into an EB Games and seeing a display of freezer bags filled with hard drives, and, like flash drives, and just photocopied papers?
Yeah, there's so much wasted on packaging now.
Yeah.
So the last in the Apple II era that he noted is The Prince of Persia from 1989.
Oh, that's a classic.
Jordan Mechner graduated from Yale University in 1985, the same year he started on The Prince of Persia. He already had one game distributed by Broderbund called Karate Ka, a martial arts action game, which was one of the first in the very few action games for the DOS era.
Cool.
Although Broderbund expected a sequel, the distributor gave Mechner the freedom to create an original game. With an inspiration of Arabian Nights stories, The Adventures of Robin Hood, and Raiders of the Lost Ark, Mechner came up with The Prince of Persia.
Neat.
This guy was very much, he knew his weaknesses, and it turned out to be revolutionary.
Yeah.
Because in this, he used an animation technique called rotoscoping.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Mechner used footage to animate the character's sprites and movements. To create the protagonist's platforming motions, Mechner traced video footage of his younger brother running and jumping in white clothes.
Oh, wow.
To create the game's sword-fighting sprites, Mechner rotoscoped the final duel scene from Errol Flynn and Basil Rathbone in the 1938 film The Adventures of Robin Hood.
Nice.
Rotoscoping was regarded as a pioneering move. Mechner later clarified that When we made the decision with Prince of Persia, I wasn't thinking about being cutting edge. We did it essentially because I'm not good at drawing or animating.
Yeah.
And I thought it was the only way I could get lifelike movement.
Yeah, and that kind of thing is still used today, tracing over footage. That's basically the first form of motion capture.
Oh,
He's just using his hand instead of a computer.
Tons of Disney was rotoscoped.
Yeah.
Also, unusual was the method of combat. Protagonists and enemies would fight with swords, not projectile weapons. As was the case in most contemporary games. Mechner said that when he started programming, the first 10 minutes of the film's Raiders of the Lost Ark had been one of the main inspirations for the character's acrobatic responses in a dangerous environment.
Cool.
So yeah, the article set those as the first three, being the Apple II, was what they were done on.
Yeah, wow.
This episode of Press It to Join is brought to you by Yes Painting, a new social enterprise started in Edmonton to help spruce up your house, while giving youth who have had it rough a chance to build a better future for themselves.
Yes Painting works kind of just like any other contract painting service. The difference is that the work is done by young people who have been involved with youth empowerment and support services, which helps 15 to 21-year-olds who are faced with difficult realities such as homelessness, trauma, addictions, or neglect.
Yes Painting teaches business skills and life skills, pays the workers a living wage, and donates half the profits to the youth empowerment and support services.
Yes Painting is making the world a better place, one job at a time. Check it out on social at Yes Painting, that's at YESS Painting. One thing I do want to add on here, it's not part of the ad read, but I did a little bit of reading on it, and they do make sure that everyone, before they paint your house, has to do a fair bit of hours of painting training.
Oh.
So these are trained youth. They're not just like grabbing people off the street to help them and handing them a paintbrush. They are training them, giving them on-the-job experience and this kind of thing too. So they're good painters.
Yeah, they're real trade painters.
Exactly. So it's more reliable than you might think with something like this.
And please sign up for your free quote at yespainting.com, and that's YESS painting.com. Then, after that, PC gaming starts to ramp up, and we have Doom in 1993.
Oh, the classic that is still trying... They program it onto everything. Printers and watches. And
it's amazing.
It's great.
The smart F key touchpad on the new iMacs.
The MacBook touch bars. Yeah.
Development of Doom started in 1992 when John D. Carmack developed a new 3D game engine, the Doom engine, while the rest of id Software team finished Wolfenstein 3D, a prequel to Spear of Destiny. When the game design phase began in late 1992, the main thematic influences were the science fiction action film Aliens and the horror film Evil Dead 2. That explained a lot to me, the Evil Dead 2.
Yeah, no doubt.
The title of the game was picked by John Cormack, and he says, "There's a scene in The Color of Money where Tom Cruise shows up in a pool hall with a custom pool cue in his case. 'What do you got in there?' someone asks. 'Doom,' replies Cruise with a cocky grin." That and the resulting carnage was how I viewed us springing up in the game industry.
I love it.
Yeah. Lead designer John Romero also cited the influence of the arcade game Pac-Man on the maze-based level design. Nazir Gabelli's Apple II games such as Horizon 5 and Zenith on fast 3D action programming. The fighting games such as Street Fighter II, Fatal Fury, and Art of Fighting inspired their deathmatch mode.
Nice.
Tom Hall, a designer of the game, wrote an elaborate design document called the Doom Bible, according to which the game would feature a detailed storyline, multiple player characters, a number of interactive features. Many of Hall's ideas were discarded during development to simplify design, primarily advocated by John Carmack.
That makes sense.
Yeah. These changes resulted in Hall, in the end, being forced to resign due to not contributing effectively in the direction of the rest of the team was going.
Really?
So most of the level design that ended up in the final game is of John Romero and Sandy Peterson's. The graphics by Adrian Carmack, Kevin Cloud, and Gregor Punchatz were modeled in various ways. Although much of the animation was drawn or painted, several of the monsters were built from sculptures in clay or latex, and some of the weapons are just toy guns from Toys R Us.
That's awesome.
Another hilarious thing. I liked how the Prince of Persia was, I couldn't draw, so I just traced my brother.
Mm-hmm.
And this is we just, took toys.
Yeah. And I mean, toy guns are always so weird and kind of futuristic-y looking to make them not look like super realistic, perfect guns. That
oh, yeah.
It works so well.
Mm-hmm. So then, as an interesting follow-up to Doom, Rise of the Triad in 1994, the game began its life as a follow-up to Wolfenstein 3D. Though it was reportedly some shares similarities with Hall's Doom Bible, this game even shares the name of one of the protagonists.
Really?
So working titles of the game were Wolfenstein 2 and Wolfenstein 3D Rise of the Triad. Using some of the game engine code as Wolfenstein 3D, it had new levels, art, and characters. The artwork took around 6 months, and the game was getting deeper into development, so the project leader, Scott Miller, contacted John Romero, informing Miller that the project had been cancelled. It was suspected that this was done because id Software did not want to draw the spotlight away from Doom, and in order to keep many of the numerous game assets the team had already created going to waste, Hall came up with a new storyline which incorporated the Nazi themes that were also in Wolfenstein.
Okay.
Several planned elements were cut from the game. One example included female versions of certain enemies, like low guards or strike force soldiers and the over patrol. Most of the alternate guards had to be cut due to technical limitations. Originally, the game was going to load both sets of guards into memory and then determine randomly which to place at an appropriate point.
Oh, that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, this had the effect of making the memory much higher than normal at the time. So,
about twice as high.
to conserve the performance, the alternate versions of the enemies were removed. The stills,
yeah, that's rough.
The stills of these alternate enemies are seen during the credits as actors who were cut from the game. So this had a multiplayer mode called Combat, Combat.
Weird.
And it's notable because at this time it allowed up to 11 players to play at once.
Wow.
Each could have a separate uniform, colors, but in team mode, the teams were identified by uniform color. There are 9 multiplayer modes, some of which didn't actually involve players shooting each other.
Really?
So, these modes included Standard Deathmatch, which was just like score more, which assigns different points depending on the weapon and the way the kill is done. So, you actually get points for more difficult kills, I think, or neater kills.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
There are other modes that consist of collecting or destroying as many triad symbols as possible. There are a few tag multiplayer modes, where the players must tag another player, or moving symbols that appear. There's also a hunter mode, in which a prey player with no weapons has to be hunted by the rest. And to capture the flag mode, which is probably the first-person shooter to have a CTF.
Wow.
There are many more options that can be set for the multiplayer game, allowing a level of customization similar to many later games. This includes player attributes, whether you have things like health, missile weapons, traps, or those sort of things spawned in the level. They really laid the groundwork for a lot of first-person fun.
No kidding. That's a lot of things that we see pretty standard in games nowadays.
Yeah, and they had to come up with it. It's just a common thing for us now. Jazz Jackrabbit in 1994.
Oh man.
Action platformers were at home on the console. Jazz Jackrabbit brought the experience to Windows and Macintosh.
That's a fun one.
Coded by Arjan Brucey and designed by Cliff Blazinski for Epic Mega Games, which is now just known as Epic Games. Jazz Jackrabbit fans were attracted to its fast-paced gameplay, advanced graphics, and notorious acid jazz level soundtracks.
Mm-hmm.
The game seemed to mimic the style of the Sonic franchise.
Yeah, I could see that.
Because I'm not too concerned about the gameplay of all these things. They had a very weird release schedule for this because it was shareware. It was more like you knew somebody that had a Jazz Jackrabbit and you copied it off that, and then you could phone a number or something and get it activated. Very...
Oh, yeah.
With releasing this game, on July 30th, 1994, a CD-ROM version was released with the title Jazz Jackrabbit CD, which had all 6 original episodes, as well as 3 extra ones known as the Lost Episodes. So there is listed as episodes A, B, and C has a secret level where Jazz is in the form of a lizard, because why not?
Yeah, why not?
A shareware Christmas edition was released December 3rd, 1994, with a special 3-level holiday-themed episodes titled Holiday Hair. And they also had, later, when they made CDs, they called the Holiday Hair episodes just Episode X, and it brought it up to 10. And later, in October 1995, another shareware Christmas edition was released with a holiday episode called Holiday Hair 95, with 2 holiday-themed worlds. So, fairly sporadic.
Yeah.
Now we're going to jump to the 2000s.
Okay.
And this is where indie games started to become more forefront in people's minds. Like, these games, they were relatively small moving forward, right?
Yeah, to me, it kind of seems like there was an indie renaissance where it started off, everyone was indie, and then the AAA publishers came in and they were the only game in town. But then when home computers got powerful enough for anybody to be curating games again that can compete with these AAA titles, and then indie games just suddenly more popular than ever.
Yeah, and now, in this time, indie games are starting to be downloaded to consoles.
Mm-hmm.
So, Braid in 2008, this game was crucial to the development of independent game. It made its first big impression by being initially released on Xbox Live Arcade, and besides what I cover in this, you can watch the development behind this game on Indie Game the Movie.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so Jonathan Blow created Braid as a game to deconstruct current video game trends, bringing together the abstract parts of a complex puzzle, revealing deep moral and philosophical questions. Blow came up with the concept of Braid in December 2004 while being on a trip to Thailand, and started development work on it in April the following year. By December 2005, a version of the game was completed that had the same number of worlds and puzzles as the final version, it lacked the final artwork. This version won the Independent Games Festival Design Award in 2006 at the Game Developers Conference. While working on art direction, Blow tightened the presentation and mechanics of the puzzles to improve their playability. During the game's 3 years of development, Blow put $200,000 US of his own money into the development, and most of it went towards David Hellman, who did the artwork and paid for his living expenses.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and it's worth it because it's a really beautiful game.
Oh yeah, no kidding. It's very iconic.
Yeah. One of Blow's design goals was to achieve gameplay innovation naturally through the artistic expression of the game. He used Rod Humble's The Marriage as an example, in which Humble set out to make a game that related his feelings of being in a marriage, instead of developing game concepts first and then adding a story later. So Blow noted that while there were no new gameplay mechanics, the gameplay felt different from any other game. Another concept that he used for Braid's development related to the game's presentation of the player. Blow recognized that many games present a complex interface to the player that get in the way of understanding the game, but at times are needed to explain the game's rules and draw in players. So he referenced Jeff Minter's Space Giraffe, pointing out that the game never communicated the purpose of playing the game up front to the player, and citing that as one of the reasons for the game's poor reception. Braid was developed to promote this nonverbal communication to the player, explaining the fundamental rule of each world at its start, and allowed the player to interact with that rule throughout the world. Commenting during the development of his following game, The Witness, Blow noted that he would run into difficulty in demonstrating Braid through video footage alone, as it would not show what happens to the player's mind during the puzzle-solving process.
Yeah, fair enough.
Because he wants you to figure it out. A problem that he also had during making The Witness, which is a really neat-looking game. Check out the video for it on Steam.
Yeah, I think I've talked about it a little bit on the podcast. I have it on iOS, and it's neat, but it's weird. But neat.
Yeah. Prior to the release, Blow withdrew Braid from the 2007 Slam Dance Guerrilla Games competition. In protest after the controversial Super Columbine Massacre RPG was dropped from the competition, despite being one of the 6 finalists.
It's very inappropriate and kind of tone-deaf.
It is. Several other developers followed the suit later and withdrew their games, including that game company's Flow and the Behemoth Castle Crashers.
Oh, that's too bad.
I did do some searching, and I found Blow's statement after leaving the festival.
Oh, okay.
Super Columbine Massacre RPG lacks compassion, and I find the artist's statement disingenuous. Despite this, the game does have redeeming value. It does provoke important thoughts, and it does push the boundaries of what games are about. It is composed with more of an eye toward art than most games. Clearly, it belongs in the festival. So in protest of the game's expulsion, I have dropped Braid out of the competition as well. Games should be taken seriously as an art form that can expand the boundaries of human experience. As an art form, they contain tremendous power to shift perspective and to heighten wisdom. But if games are denied an appropriate level of societal recognition, growth of the form will be very difficult. The human culture will be lesser for it. So I guess he feels if anything's a game, it should be allowed in this festival.
I mean, it kind of goes into the whole First Amendment thing where it's like, yeah, you can make whatever games you want, but people aren't required to give you a platform on which to promote them.
Yeah. I guess that's the problem of they called it a games competition, but I don't know. It wasn't an art competition.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there is the big argument that games are art. And I can definitely see the argument, but it comes down to it's a competition that it's not like some kind of charity purpose. Like, people are running it, people are getting paid to run it, and if they're not comfortable with the games in it, then it's their prerogative to stop it. It's their ball, and they can take it and go home if they want.
Which I found interesting that they even allowed that game into this game competition.
Yeah,
and then it made it to one of the 6 finalists. Like, why would they let it go that far and then withdraw it?
And that seems like the big misstep from this competition. It's like, if you don't want it in the competition, don't let it be there. It almost sounds like they had it in there thinking like, oh, well, this is just like, no one will take it seriously and we won't have to worry about it. But then it was actually like, it had merit in its own right, but the competition still wasn't comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Which is, like, you got to make up your mind and stick to your guns. And they didn't.
Yeah. See, for a second, I was going to look up the game to see, like, what its rating was. But then the whole concept of what a Super Columbine Massacre RPG would be sort of made me sick to my stomach. And I will never look into it.
Yeah, I'm with you. And that is our prerogative as as a platform. We don't have to give a voice to that game if we're not comfortable with it and its content material.
Other than this right now saying it's bad.
Well, saying it exists and we're not comfortable with its existence. Whether it is objectively good or bad, that's not for us to say because we haven't played it.
Same with another game on that tone is the Hatred.
Oh, well, that one was just...
Yeah. Never played it, not interested in it.
That one's whole cachet was its controversy.
Yeah. Moving on, Limbo 2010.
Oh, that's a good one.
According to Playdead co-founder Dino Patti, the lead game designer, Jeppe Carlson, Playdead's game art director, Art Jensen conceived Limbo around 2004. Yeah, according to all of them. At that time, as a concept artist at IO Interactive, Jensen became dissatisfied with an increasingly corporate nature of the company. he'd sketch a mood image of a secret place to get ideas. And the result, similar to the backgrounds of the final game, inspired Jensen to expand on it.
Cool.
Jensen initially tried to program his own game in Visual Basic around 2004, but he found he needed more help and proceeded to create an art style trailer by 2006. He had only intended to use the trailer as a means to recruit a programmer to help him, but the video attracted substantial interest in the project from across the internet, eventually leading him to meet with Patty, who was also dissatisfied with his job. Their collaboration led to the founding of Playdead. Although Patty helped with the first few months programming, he realized that the project was much larger than the two of them could handle, and Patty develops the business around the game's expanding development. So one game made this company Playdead.
Yeah, no kidding.
Initial development was funded personally by Jensen and Patty, along with Danish government grants, including funding from the Nordic Game Program. While large investors were sought later in the development cycle, Jensen and Patty did not want to commit to major publishers. They preferred to retain full creative control of the developing title.
Makes sense.
They originally planned to make it a free Microsoft Windows title, but by that point, they decided they wanted to make it retail, probably to recoup some of their costs.
That makes sense.
Playdead chose to ignore outside advice from investors and critics during development, which was only the better for it. It's an awesome game.
Yeah, good on them.
Things they were suggested were to add multiplayer and to be able to adjust the difficulty level and maybe extend the game's length.
But nope. I'm glad they didn't do any of those things because especially like multiplayer would ruin the atmosphere.
It makes no sense, yeah.
Yeah.
So according to Patty, Playdead felt these changes would break the integrity of Jensen's original vision.
Actually, are we cool with like a weird digression on this?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So actually, speaking of weird multiplayer indie game, you know Journey, right?
Yep.
So my father-in-law played Journey, and he hated it, and he didn't have any fun with it. Because that computer player that guides you around was doing all the puzzles for him.
Oh.
I told him there's no computer player. That's a human being. He's like, oh, well, in my game, I had someone join my game and just run around doing everything perfectly as it needed to be done and didn't actually get to play.
And I loved my experience, which was done solo.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like the Journey multiplayer concept was really interesting, and it's a way to be like, you're interacting with a human being, but you have no text and no chat, and there's just like one emote you can ever do. But then you have the danger of it ruining someone's gameplay.
Yeah, like somebody that wanted to just speed run you through it instead of just be there to experience it with you.
Exactly, and I'm so glad that Limbo is just a single player, because it's very much you're there, you're experiencing it, and you're just the existential dread of a child alone in the woods.
Yeah. So yeah, going back to Limbo, according to Patty, Playdead felt these changes would break the integrity of the game. He also felt that the investors tried to control the company with no usable knowledge or respect, citing that after Microsoft raised concerns about the death of the boy, one of the investors suggested we make him appear older by giving him a mustache.
What?
Numerous iterations of the game took place during a 2.5-year development cycle, including changes Jensen had demanded to polish the title, some elements being added 2 months prior to the game's release.
Oh, wow.
Patty said they trashed 70% of the game content they developed due to not fitting well with the context of the game. So, for the good, I think.
Yeah.
And expanding up to 16 freelancers at various stages of development. Playdead developed the design tools for Limbo in Visual Studio. Patty commented they would likely seek third-party applications for their next project, given the challenges in creating their own technology. Patty later revealed that they had opted to use Unity Engine for their next project, citing the development of their custom engine for Limbo as a double product doing both engine and game, and that Limbo Engine is limited to monochromatic visuals, which still look good.
Yeah, I mean, it looks fantastic, but I'm very glad they went the way they did for Inside, because, ooh, that's a good-looking game.
Oh, Inside was fantastic. Limbo was released July 2010 on the Xbox Live Arcade service, as well as being the first title in their Summer of Arcade promotion, which I remember.
That was a huge deal.
Ooh. Although the Entertainment Software Rating Board, the ESRB, as we've talked about in past history episodes, had listed entries for Limbo under the PS3 and Microsoft Windows platforms, Playdead confirmed that this was a mistake on the ESRB's part. They had no plans to make the game on these systems.
Oh, dang.
But later, Patty clarified they planned on Windows and PS3 along the 360 version initially, but after they reviewed their options, they went with the Xbox 360 exclusively.
Okay.
Patty said, Microsoft provided us with an excellent opportunity, which included a lot of support for the title, which in the end would mean a better visibility for Limbo.
That makes sense.
And while we're talking about Microsoft, why not we talk about Minecraft? 2000.
Oh, yeah.
So this threw me off. The release date of Minecraft is 2011.
So that's like the beta or the alpha?
That is the release, full release.
Wait, the full release was 2011?
Yeah.
Okay, so I wonder when the alpha and beta came out, because I have no concept of time, so...
No, yeah.
It seems not quite it.
So as a side note, I've looked at the list of best-selling video games of all time frequently from past histories, and Minecraft is now number 2, coming up on Tetris, which is number 1.
Well, I mean, Minecraft is on almost as many platforms as Tetris.
Yeah, it's not on heart oscilloscopes or whatever.
Yeah.
So Marcus Notch Pearson. So he began developing the game as a project. He was inspired to create Minecraft by several other games, such as Dwarf Fortress, Dungeon Keeper, and then later Infiniminer. At the time, he visualized an isometric 3D building game that would be a cross between his inspirations that had made early prototypes. Infiniminer heavily influenced the style and gameplay, including the first-person aspect of the game and the blocky visual style, and the block building fundamentals. If you look up Infiniminer, it'll look a lot like beta Minecraft.
Yeah.
But it was heavily multiplayer.
Interesting.
But unlike Infiniminer, Notch wanted to make Minecraft have RPG elements. Minecraft was first released to the public May 17th, 2009, as a developmental release on TIG Source, later becoming known as the classic version. Further milestones, dubbed as Survival Test, InDev, and InfDev, released between September 2009 and February 2010.
Okay.
Although the game saw updates in between, the first major update, dubbed Alpha version, was released the 28th of June 2010. Although Notch maintained a day job with Jalbum.net at first, he quit in order to work on Minecraft full-time as sales of the Alpha version expanded.
Yeah.
Notch continued to update the game with releases distributed to users automatically. These updates included new items, new blocks, new mobs, a survival mode, the changes to the game's behavior, like how water flows and stuff. To back the development of Minecraft, Notch set up a video game company, Mojang, with the money earned on the game. On December 11th, 2010, Notch announced that Minecraft was entering its beta testing phase, and on the 20th of December 2010, he stated that bug fixes and all later updates for the release were going to be free.
Nice.
Over the course of that development, Mojang several new employees to work on the project. The beta is, I think, where most of the people in our circles started playing.
Yeah, definitely. I think I heard about it when it was in alpha, just because I was working at a computer repair shop and this guy was complaining that it was crashing on his rig, and I'm like, yeah, that's because it's an alpha game.
Yeah.
There's not much we can do about that.
Exactly. I heard stories about it in alpha being told it's in beta now and you can get it for 50% off, where the alpha was 75% off. Because he did the smart thing with marketing. He made it a full retail price, but made the alpha a clear discount instead of just saying it's an $8 game.
Yeah, just like a gigantic discount.
Yeah.
So yeah, actually, my first experience with Minecraft was loading it up, not knowing what the hell was going on, because like I hadn't heard anything about what Minecraft was at that point.
Oh.
So I found out you could dig by clicking on things. So I just spent like I don't know, 20 minutes, half hour, just digging all the way down as far as I could and then building all the way up as far as I could just to see if I could get it to crash. First things I did with Minecraft. And then, I don't know, that's kind of how I still play it.
My first experience was when he was testing the very rare giant mobs. And I was afraid to leave my first house because there was a cave that had a giant zombie.
Oh no.
And I think they've teased bringing that back from time to time. So Mojang moved out of the beta test and released the full version November 18th, 2011. The game has been continuously updated since the release, with changes ranging from new game content to new server hosts. And on December 1st, 2011, Jens Jeb Bergensten took full creative control over Minecraft.
Cool.
He then replaced Notch as the lead developer. And then on February 28th, 2012, Mojang announced they hired new developers from the popular server platform CraftBucket to help improve Minecraft's support of server modifications.
Cool.
This acquisition also included Mojang apparently taking full ownership of CraftBucket modification, although the validity of this claim was questioned due to the status of it being an open source project with many contributors.
That makes sense.
September 15th, 2014, Microsoft announced a $2.5 billion deal to buy Mojang.
Yeah, that was huge.
Along with the ownership of Microsoft and Minecraft intellectual property, which has only made them money, I assume.
Oh yeah, I mean, with all the different editions that are out there and the constant development and stuff, Microsoft has definitely made money on this deal.
Yeah. So the deal was suggested by Notch when he posted a tweet asking a corporation to buy his share of the game after receiving criticism after the deal was completed November 6, 2014. This made Notch become one of Forbes' world's billionaires.
Yup. Because of a alpha game that he just made in his basement, not even as his full-time job.
Yeah.
It's such an impressive success story. That kind of thing.
Oh,
it's
it's
just
incredible.
He was the quintessential indie developer, and it led to him being a billionaire. That's amazing.
Totally.
This episode is brought to you in part by the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ETB. The Alberta Podcast Network, it promotes and supports Alberta-made podcasts and connects their audience with Alberta-based businesses and organizations. It's pretty great. It makes podcasting in Alberta be a sustainable model, as opposed to just putting all of our money into it. We can actually get connected with sponsors, with supporters, and it makes the whole thing a lot better for the entire podcast community. It's pretty awesome.
And being connected to all these great podcasts lifts us up too, because, just better by association.
Absolutely. There's stuff like Don't Call Me a Guru, where they talk about social media strategy. There's Future Chat. They talk about science and technology.
I'm a fan of That's a Thing, where a daughter gets to explain crazy internet culture to her mom.
Yeah, it's fantastic people, fantastic podcasts, fantastic content. You can check out a bunch of them at albertapodcastnetwork.com or in the CKUA radio app. There's a bunch of us all in there too.
Get really close to the time now where we have the distribution platform for people to make their own games, but now we're seeing the era of people proposing games and now people crowdfunding the games they want to play.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So a really quick one for Chaos Reborn that came out 2015. Chaos Reborn is a turn-based tactical role-playing game created by Julian Gollop and was part funded through Kickstarter in April 2014. Following an early access release in December 2014, the full game was released October 2015.
Okay.
So the game is a remake of Gollop's 1985 game called Chaos Battle of the Wizards. The remake includes a number of improvements over the original version, including an RPG metagame and the ability to buy equipment such as armor, staves, and talismans, which give players a number of enhancements, such as extra spells and abilities.
Cool.
And for the last note, it was nominated for a Golden Joystick Award in the 2015 Best Indie category, but it lost to the Kerbal Space Program.
Oh, yeah, that's a pretty crazy one.
So this is a game I haven't touched due to its comment of how difficult it is, but I want it on the grounds that it looks like it's the style I love. Hyperlight Drifter 2016. I only knew what the character looked like, the Drifter, through amazing art, and I just love pixel graphics, so the Hyperlight Drifter comes up a lot.
Cool.
So it's a 2D action role-playing game developed by Heart Machine. The game plays homage to 8-bit and 16-bit games. It's considered by its lead developer, Alex Preston, as a combination of Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past and Diablo. Preston had originally launched Kickstarter funding for the title, and he was looking for $27,000 to develop the title for Microsoft Windows, OS X, and Linux, but he ended up with more than $600,000.
Oh, wow.
That allowed him to hire programmers and artists, and expanding the title for console and portable platforms throughout their stretch goals.
Nice.
So, Hyperlight Drifter is primarily based on the vision of his key developer, Alex Preston. Preston had been born with congenital heart disease, and throughout his life has been hospitalized with digestive and immune system issues relating to his condition.
Oh, jeez.
So, he envisioned Hyperlight Drifter as a video game as a means to tell the story he can identify with, expressing something personal to a larger audience, so he feels more connected and have an outlet with the many emotions that crop up around a life-altering issue.
That's fantastic.
So he yearned to develop a game that combined the best elements of Legend of Zelda, Link to the Past, and Diablo for many years. It would feature a world of exploration and combat that required some strategy by the player, depending on the foes they faced. After several years of being an animator, he felt he could do it in 2013. The theme and the story for the game, featuring the protagonist suffering a terminal disease, is meant to be a metaphor of his own health.
Yeah.
The game was originally set to release mid-2014, but it got delayed until the second quarter of 2016 due to the expanded scope of the game.
Yeah, I can see that. With that, any Kickstarter that gets that many times more than what they're asking for, like, you're going to get delays. You're going to get an awesome product, but you're going to get delays.
Oh, yeah. He felt he needed to have the perfect game before its release, and his health actually did delay the game quite a bit.
Yeah, fair enough.
Preston found help from several developers around the Los Angeles area. Him and the developers worked to build out Glitch Space, which is a small open office space for small developers to work from and share ideas. Besides his own team, Preston got frequent help from developers Ben Esposito of Donut County and Brandon Chung from Blendo Games, as well as Ben Vance. Preston was also encouraged by the letters of support he got from people across the globe after reporting on some of his health conditions. The letters influenced Preston to alter the story in which Hyperlight Drifter, so to make it not a problem facing a single character, but something shared by many.
Oh, that's kind of really nice.
Yeah, so he was making it about himself, and then when he learned how many people connected, he included them, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's really, like, heartwarming.
So the Drifter, the protagonist that you play in this game, is a playable character in other games, such as Runbow and Brawl Out, as well as an upcoming game called Hex Heroes. And this is really interesting. The Drifter will also be added as an expansion character for the board game Kingdom Death Monster.
Oh, damn.
Hyperlight Drifter will be featured on one of the clothing options for Travis Touchdown in Travis Strikes Again, No More Heroes.
Nice.
That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
And for the last game in this article, they talk about Kingdom Come. It came out 2018.
I don't think I've heard of that one.
Yeah, me neither, but I've seen, if you search it, you'll noticed the art. I recognize the cover art.
Cool.
It might be a meme or something, I don't know. Maybe an anime uses it, I'm not sure. So this project was to become Kingdom Come Deliverance began with a pitch by Daniel Vavra, who left 2K Czech in 2009. With a small team, he began seeking investors for the project. Vavra's pitch on the board, Martin Klima, the founder of Alter Games, but he also had pitches to major investors in the Czech Republic, which were not successful.
That's too bad.
The team was preparing to abandon the project when a successful pitch to a private investor, the Czech billionaire Zdeněk Bakala, that's the best I'm doing it.
Good for you.
Secured funding to develop the prototype of the game. Warhorse Studios was founded July 21st, 2011.
Cool.
So Warhorse Studios first announced that they were working on an unannounced role-playing game in February 2012, and then they successfully licensed the CryEngine 3 on this date.
Oh, cool.
After 17 months of working on a prototype, Warhorse began a tour pitching the prototype to various international investors. The project did not generate the hype they hoped for, and with dwindling resources, little progress had been made towards their investment. Towards an investment. January 2014, Warhorse launched a crowdfunding Kickstarter campaign with a goal of generating 300,000 GBD.
Pounds.
Yeah.
British pounds.
300,000 quid.
That works.
10% of their $5 million budget. And in order to prove to the investor that there exists, they wanted the Kickstarter game to prove to their investor that there was a market for this game. In February 2014, raising over £1 million.
Oh, wow.
Even after the end of the Kickstarter campaign, the crowdfunding continued through the studio's website. In October 2014, Daniel Vavra had announced through a YouTube video that the game has raised over $2 million US from a total of 38,000 backers.
Nice.
The date of the public alpha access was launched October 2014, and the beta released to backers in March 2015. In September 2016, the game was released worldwide February 2018. A day one patch was released with the extensive update of the game code and gameplay. In Forbes magazine in the Czech Republic, Daniel Vavra interview stated that the game cost them 750 million crowns, approximately 36.5 million US, including all their marketing costs.
Jesus.
So, I check out Kingdom Come Deliverance. It should be good.
Yeah, that sounds interesting.
And it seems like, even though a game that ends up being $36 million is still an indie game because they had to pull from a million sources of income.
Yeah, that is true.
It's not just a guy and his wife deciding to do something over a weekend and putting it in Ziploc bags.
Yeah, we've come a long way from that.
I liked the list that Damien McFerrin wrote for that Red Bull article, which is available on our site with the link to that. I like those games. I'm interested in a lot of these games.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I wanted to do something that touched on a bunch of different things instead of just one, so I hope you enjoyed it. You and the audience.
Yeah, it's a ton of fun for me and hopefully for the listeners too.
Well, thanks. I'm going to say that's it for this gaming history episode. We'll still have a new episode every week of tech news and stuff. So, yeah. Alan, get back to taking notes. I did my one a month.
But what a one.
And I'd like to thank everybody for listening.
And thank you for pressing start.
Hey, and it's really easy if you want to get a hold of us. We have Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We're at PS2J Show there. And if you want, you can just email us at ps2jshow@gmail.com.
We also have PS2JShow.com, the best place to keep up to date with all the weird and exciting stuff that we're doing. And if you want to help us make more weird and exciting stuff, you can check out our support page, PS2JShow.com/support. You can use our Amazon affiliate link to buy yourself some stuff and tell Amazon that we're cool dudes who deserve a little bit of money. We've got a Ripped coupon code for Ripped Apparel. It is PS2JShow. You get 10% off your purchase of some cool clothes. And we also have our Patreon, where you can stay up to date with all our show notes and our State of the podcast, just like our favorite fan, Dalton.
Yeah, Dalton's an awesome guy. He's on a podcast network called Podzilla 1985. He's on a few shows there, so make sure to check them out. And all music you hear in these episodes, except for the intro diddly, is courtesy of Kevin MacLeod. He makes great music, so make sure to check him out.
Definitely.